what's up, and welcome to this episode of EST, the podcast for established church leaders by established church leaders. My name is Josh King.
My name is Sam, and it's baseball season.
It is baseball season, and your World Series winning Texas Rangers. I'm excited. I'm going to a game here not too many weeks from now. I got the Texas Baptist kind of group. They're going to go, and I'm going to go with them. And I'm excited to see it. Texas Baptist friends, the Texas Rangers.
Honestly, there is nothing more Texas than going to see the Texas Rangers with Texas Baptist friends. That's as Texas and as Baptist as it gets, and I love every bit of it.
Yeah, with my Texas tattoo, I am going to go off and do it. I mean, people know I love Texas,
but when they have a Texas tattoo, is it new? Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, I just showed him my Texas tattoo. I literally have the state of Texas tattooed to my right arm. I don't know. I'm married to it. I love this place. So, yeah.
You permanently think it.
I did. When are you going to get Florida? Florida, you need that on
I don't have any tattoos. I have no tattoos.
I'll take you, Sam. Let's go get an EST tattoo.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
And Micah, if he wants to. Come on, Micah. Come on, man.
Oh man.
All right, so let's talk
and by the way,
about
there is a price tag. So at some point I can be bought. So if someone wants to sponsor the show to such a degree that I get a tattoo of your sponsorship, I can be bought. There's a dollar amount that eventually.
Yeah.
It might need to be 7 figures, but I'll do it.
I would do it. I would probably do it as well.
We do have a great sponsor. I don't have a church team's tattoo. Unfortunately, I don't think Boyd does either. Boyd's the co-founder, and he runs the company. Does a good job. We love church teams. You should love them too. You should give them a call. Give them some love. Go to est.church. They've got a free trial offer there for you. Reach out to them. Tell them that we sent you, and they can help you set up any sort of church management software system that you need. The connection to your guests, directory stuff, check-in, text to church, giving. Boy, their giving module's great. Their plans are scalable with you, the church. So they start lower for smaller churches and they scale up with you as you get larger. Great concept, great software, great company, great people that work there. So go to est.church and get the offer from church teams.
Yes. Okay, so we have a pretty interesting topic here because there is the reality that as church leaders, established church leaders, or even church plants, you're going to incur some transfer growth. Now you said that there's a different kind of growth. What you call demographic growth, right? That's a different kind of growth.
Yeah, let's do this real quick. So there's really only 4 ways that a church can grow. Now, okay. I understand. I'm talking statistically. I'm not talking spiritually.
Yes. Praise the Lord.
Only
Hallelujah.
Statistically.
Yeah.
We're assuming your heart is in the right place and that you are doing the right spiritual things. So statistically, there's only 4 ways a church can grow. And I will put these in order of importance. Conversion growth. That means that unbelieving person now knows Jesus and they're assimilated into your church. So that's conversion growth.
That's the goal. That
is the goal. Biological growth. So mom and dad have a kid. Mom and dad are members of your church, and they raise their child in the church. Hopefully that child eventually accepts Christ at some point. That's biological growth. I grew up in the church. Then you have demographic growth, which means I'm new to the community. I'm looking for a church. So this is somebody moving communities and then finding a church, that demographic growth. And then the last one, and it should. I mean, you should look to see who's new to the community to find people who are looking for a church. And then the last one, which is the least important, is transfer growth. This is, I still live in the same community, but now I'm going to go to a different church in that same community. That's transfer.
And this one gets a bad rap. Like you'll talk about people and a church grows real fast and it'll be like, but it's just transfer growth. You got church hoppers. And some of that may be true, but it's not.
I just did the research.
Okay.
Almost every growing church grew because of transfer growth in the last 25 years.
That's right. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, we all know that there's really two reasons church grows: great drive by, and nobody knows the dumb stuff you've done. Everybody's done dumb stuff. It's just some churches got caught doing it. So that's really the formula for these big churches. It's great drive by, and the dumb stuff you've done is not public knowledge. But we're going to talk about acceptable
There you
transfer
go.
growth.
It gets a bad rap, and I understand why. And frankly,
Hmm.
it should. I mean,
Yeah.
if you grew by 2,000 people and 1,900 of them came from another church in the area, you didn't do church right. Like you literally did church wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
so
mean, there's a couple of classic examples for that quickly. It's just like when let's say there's a very popular associate pastor of one church, and then he takes the lead pastorate of a church 2 miles down the road, and all of a sudden that little church becomes much larger. I call that pulling the bottom out of. You just pulled the bottom out of that bigger church, and so there's that growth. There's also sort of an attitude or a we're too cool for school. These are the churches that advertise being not your mama's church, or we're not your grandma's church, or that kind of thing. And that whole idea of you're intentionally going after Christians to try to pull the church that are too cool for school to be at your new cool church, that kind of thing. I think those are two of the most common ones of bad transfer growth.
yeah, the other one is we're the church for the unchurched. You know, the unchurched don't go to church. You're not marketing to the unchurched.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
marketing to that cool crowd again. So they may say
Mm,
not to grandma's church. They may also say we're the church for the unchurched, which is evangelical code for, hey, we're cooler than the church down the road.
yeah, we wear jeans. Yeah, yeah, I got it. I got it. Okay, so let's talk about these. You've got 5 of these, and these come from an article that you had worked on. So I'm sure we'll link to that. What's the first one?
Yeah, the first good reason for transfer growth is what I will call geography. So
Hmm.
let me explain. Um, there are communities change geographically. Maybe a community adds a mass transit system, and that changes how people can get from one place to another. Maybe a
Hmm.
bridge is built over a river, and that changes how people can commute. A great example is the completion of 265. I think I have that right. 265 in Louisville, Kentucky, and that bridge was built like from Louisville to Indiana on the east side. So
Mm,
it used to be like it would to get from point A to point B, river point to river point used to take, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half. And then
mm,
that shifted the second the bridge was built to 5 minutes. So now there's the ability to get to a place that you otherwise couldn't get to, that's
mm.
actually close. So I would call that geography growth, a growing suburb in a large city. And there's a church plant because there's just
Yeah,
a bunch of new homes being built. That's geographic growth. And there are
yeah,
times to transfer membership because of geographic regions.
yeah, yeah.
My
Okay.
tribe, there was no church here, but now my tribe, I was part of the Foursquare movement or Assemblies of God, and there just wasn't a church here, but now there is, and I get to be a part of my tribe again. Okay, that's fair. I mean
Yeah.
that's what I'll call geographic growth.
Yeah, I've got an example of that. The community that my first pastorate was in, Saxe, is a suburb of Garland, which is a suburb of Dallas. And at one point, just getting from the northern part of Garland to Saxe, First Baptist Saxe, was fairly easy, just really quick, right up Lavon Drive. Well, not all that long ago, President George Bush Turnpike, a very, very large toll road, came through and just kind of cut Garland from Saxe. And then they built shopping malls and all kinds of stuff right there at that intersection. And what took relatively no time now took a lot of time. And essentially, it's like the reverse of your example, they put a river in it, and it slowed everything down. So folks in Garland started looking for churches more to their south, more Garland churches. And you can see over First Baptist Saxe's history how the attendance just stopped coming from Garland and started coming from Wiley, or Saxe in the community. So yeah, geographically things change, and that would cause somebody to transfer. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, not something we should fight or be mad about.
No, you shouldn't. I mean, if I used to be able to get to church in 5 minutes, but now it's 35 minutes, and listen, I just need to go to church in my neighborhood, that's
Right.
fine. I mean,
Hmm.
it's painful if you're the one losing people. That
Hmm.
hurts, but it's nothing to get, like you said, it's nothing to get angry about. All right,
Yep.
second one. Second one
Number
is
dose.
theology. Theology.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I joined this church 20 years ago, and they had a certain confessional statement. They had a certain belief
Hmm.
system, and new pastor comes in and completely reworks that. And now
Yeah.
we believe something completely different that I don't really adhere to. I would give the advice every single time you need to find another church. Every single time. If the
Mm-hmm.
theology of the church has changed and you just can't adhere to it, then you have no business being there. You need to go to a church that's closer to what you believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we want to make sure that we're talking about first and second tier doctrines here. And, it's not the same as like, well, they don't do hymns anymore. And my theology, that's not your theology.
Well, that's
That's your
practice. That
preference.
has
Yeah.
nothing to do with theology. That's
Yeah. And
that's
sometimes people
practice.
will confuse those things. There might be more clarity on a doctrinal statement. But you're right. I mean, and that's something that like, I think it's just part of our kind of congregational churches that select pastors and bring them in. Sometimes a pastor can have a different leaning. One of those classic examples is sort of the conversation around Calvinism. And so, if a pastor is Calvinistic, very heavily so, is are they wrong for teaching that viewpoint? I would say no. I mean, they were hired to teach and pastor and preach, and so if they're going to shift that church towards a more Calvinistic viewpoint, that's what that church hired, and that's kind of how it goes. Um, I don't think that you should hire pastors and then tell them now you have to preach our understanding of everything because, well, that's why we preach. We preach to help you understand things. So, but you're right. If I was a part of a Baptist church and I looked up and all of a sudden we're Assemblies of God, I'm going to go join another church. It's just
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah,
the way it goes.
and this can happen at the denominational level too. I think of like the United
Yeah.
Methodist Church and everything that's going on there, and the formation of the Global Methodist Church out of
Hmm.
the UMC. And I know that's a very painful thing, and it's a lot of people that have they don't necessarily want to leave, but they feel like they have to, and
Hmm.
it's a big mess,
Yeah.
frankly. But but a lot of people are leaving the UMC to go to the GMC now for issues of theology. I mean
Right.
that's why we're seeing the shift. So, um, good reason to transfer is geography. Another good reason is theology. Third one here is family. Sometimes your family situation just changes. So, grandma gets to a certain age, can't really take care of herself anymore. Maybe, uh,
Hmm.
she's moved in with parents, and they all want to go to church together, so they may
Hmm.
make a decision as a family to go to a different church for family reasons. And again, while painful, and man, you hate to lose people like that if you're again the one losing them, it is a legitimate reason to transfer to another church.
Yeah. Yeah. I was sharing with you, Sam, just a minute ago. We had a family join our church who's coming from a church they like that they've been a part of for a while. It's just that their kids got to teenage years, and the church that they're at has no student ministry at all to speak of at all. And so I would encourage people, well, did you try to help get one going? Did you talk to your elders or your leadership and try to get that going? I think that may be the season for your church to develop that. So that I wouldn't say that from the point of view of a church member needs to be your first, well, they've got a program I like, I want to go to that. But from the point of view of a pastor, if your church is not offering a program, and I hate to say it that way because you don't want to be like, well, we offer XYZ, but if you're just not meeting a certain need and they feel called or feel led to go to elsewhere, I think that's acceptable. I think another pretty common one is, somebody from my church is dating somebody from another church, like-minded. That's great. You want them to get married to a nice Christian. You're dating somebody from another church,
No, that's what happened to me.
and so
Um,
you went to Aaron's church.
I did. Yeah, when
Yeah.
Erin and I started dating,
Mhm.
I joined her church because
Yeah.
I really liked her a lot, and maybe there was wisdom in that. Maybe not. I don't know. I didn't know any different. I was 23 years old, and I was like, "This girl, I like her, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna join her church."
Yeah, we had a college student visiting our church here. He's a student at UT, and he came with his grandparents, and they were introducing him, and he's up from Austin, and they were like, I said, so what church do you go to down there? I've got friends that pastor in Austin, and he said, well, I've been going to the Catholic church, and he kind of cuts his eyes at his grandparents because we're Baptist, and he looks at his grandparents and he goes, see, there's this girl. And so it was like, that was the whole reason. I was like, man, I don't know if you should switch denominations for a girl. Where I pastor now is just really close to the Village Church. Many people know about that church. And that's why, quite frankly, I won't let any of our people date people from the Village because they're going to end up over there. So I'm just totally kidding. I'm fine if you go to the Village. It's totally fine. But yeah, the dating, the marriage, that sort of stuff will often, family will shift, and you got to go to another church.
All
Yeah.
right, geography, theology, family. The next one's kind of sad, but abandonment. And there are occurrences where churches just kind of push a group out.
Mm,
I've heard of that. There are various reasons why that happens. So if your church abandons you or pushes you out, again, these are non-disciplinary reasons. You know, if you're under church discipline and that's why you got excommunicated, that's a different thing. But
yeah. Get right.
even then, you still got to find a church, right? But no, this is this is more.
That's when you transfer by statement.
Yeah, no, no,
You
it's
never
just like,
never ask
yeah,
for
yeah.
my letter. I'm
Why
coming by
why
statement.
are you here? Well, my other church kind of excommunicated me. It's like, well, let's sit
Mm,
down and talk this one through.
let's talk about it.
But there are times, and it's sad. Church just basically pushes out a certain group for reasons that are typically not a good. They're not usually not good reasons. If that's the
Well,
case, then you need to go find another church.
let me ask you this. Okay, so this happens. Let's say there's a church, and it's on the smaller side, whatever scale you want to use, and it's largely traditional in its practice with its music and its habits and those sort of stuff. They hire a new leadership, and they start growing by a more modern or contemporary style. And the church makes the decision to reach their community. They're going to be more contemporary, and essentially they shift away from preferences that the original members wanted or liked. Would you feel like, I mean, I guess I could go either way on it. I don't want to judge anybody on that sort of stance, but if they're like, there's 100 of them that still prefer that traditional model and method, and they go down the street that is still that model and method and is their denomination, is that close to abandonment, or is that a preference issue, or what are we talking
It's a
about?
preference issue. That is definitely not abandonment. But what's really going on? I've heard of that happening, of course, and that's a pretty
Yeah.
common
Mm-hmm.
example. And it's very difficult to know motive. So it's difficult to say, well, every time that happens, it's bad or wrong, or they shouldn't have done that. But let me just put it this way: transferring churches because of preferences is usually ill advised
Mm,
for whatever your preference. Even like, oh, they have the program that I like. Well, they may not in 2 years. Then what are you going to do?
right.
Just going to hop around churches just for a program?
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, that but I understand an older generation, particularly if a church makes a wide swing from very traditional, more soft worship to very contemporary, very loud. I mean, an older person physiologically struggles in that environment. Their ears
Mm-hmm.
don't work the same. Their body
Mm-hmm.
can't handle the loud, which is why we still offer a traditional service, softer traditional service at 8 o'clock for us, because there are just physiological changes that occur in the body that, like, I can't hear anything. Like, and my ears, I've got really bad ears. I walk into, and we don't do very loud worship at our church, even in our more modern services. But I've walked into some churches that are loud, and I'm like, I can't even. It's all muddied to me. I can't hear. I,
Mm,
I wouldn't join those churches even if I liked what they were doing. It's just I can't worship because it's all muddied. So there are times when people make that move for those reasons, and it's like, man, I really don't want to leave, but I can't handle it. I physiologically can't
yeah,
handle it. And they don't say it like that. They just say, well, the music's bad, right? But you
yeah.
kind of need to dig a little bit. It's like, well, I can't hear. I can't hear in there. And it's like, okay, now that makes a little more sense than you're not doing my preferences anymore. So
Mm.
I would say most of the time when people are leaving purely because of preferences, it's ill advised. But at the same time, dig a little bit. Maybe there's a more of a better reason why.
Yeah, I mean, I can really struggle with this in my own heart. As a pastor, I understand the idea of being quote unquote relevant or connecting with the community and the music sounding like something that is acceptable to people who are searching. I get that. I get the motivation there. I also get the motivation of what is familiar and traditional and knowing the words and that sort of stuff. And I honestly just don't fault either side of it. You're just going to have to make a decision. You're probably going to disappoint a group or the other. Um, if the day comes when I am seen as traditional and in my own preferences and things, and the church I'm attending, let's say I'm retired, the church I'm attending decides to make a move in order to somehow they believe that will help reach more people, man, I just hope I'm good with it. And I just say, look, I get it. I see how that goes, but you are changing sort of the agreement. And so I'm going to go down the road. I wish you guys the best, and I'm going to go attend this one. I just hope that there is those seasons. And we're being broad here. A lot of people just change and they're good with it. Yeah, we're going to reach more people. Awesome. I'll wear earplugs or something like that. So, you know, that's something to do.
Yeah. So the last one is life stage. And, this could be something, it's similar to family, but let's say that it doesn't involve family. It's, hey, I was going to a Saturday night service and I'm getting older and my eyes don't work as well. So I shouldn't be driving at night. So I need to find a church that has a service during the day. It could be, to some degree, like a job change. Hey, I took the night shift or I took the morning shift or whatever it is. So I have to go find a service that
Mm,
or church that can accommodate that. So there are life stages where it might be a good reason for you to transfer your membership. And I'd say this one actually is probably more common, like
mm,
as a good reason to transfer. There are times when you just enter into a life stage with some different things going on that there's a church that would be better for you than the one that you're at right now. But again, like you said before, this doesn't need to be preference driven. Like that, that's not healthy for just always to be
yeah.
looking for all of your preferences.
No, one way I see this fleshed out really common around here in the Metroplex is that there's just so many churches that have that big worship service on the weekends. And there's like kid church during that same time, but they don't have what you and I might call on campus small group or Sunday school or something along that line. They only offer home groups. And so I see a lot of committed Christians, faithful people who hit that stage where they get to like their kids are toddler age and it starts to get really, really difficult to stay connected to a small group because finding a time between work and bedtime where you can go with the kids and all that kind of stuff. So they start looking for churches that, quite honestly, are more like mine that have, a worship service followed by or preceded by groups for all ages. And so there's childcare available, there's small groups and stuff. And I don't fault that. I think I get that. Here's the way that I always see it, especially in this idea of transfer growth. We all have those couple apples, those couple churches, pastors in our communities that are stealing sheep. That's what they're trying to do. They're doing it intentional or maybe not, but that's what they're doing.
No,
But
most know what
largely,
they're doing. The successful ones know what they're doing. Let me put it that way.
I
The ones that end
mean,
up being successful at it, they know that they're strategic about it. They know exactly what they're doing. That's why they're
strategic, right?
successful.
Yeah. But largely what I would say is most of us, it's just the same team, different positions. There's churches that are just their whole approach is just very superficial, evangelistic. They want to get as many people saved as possible, and they focus much less on discipleship. And they'll tell you that. They just want to get as many people saved as possible. There's other churches that are not as strong evangelistically, but are deeper in their understanding and their applications, stuff like that. And I find that those end up being life stage churches. And so somebody gets saved, they transfer. But so I would just say same team, different. I think what's good about this topic, Sam, your article and this podcast, is just helping those of us in leadership not get all bent out of shape, knowing that this is just part of it. Some of it is going to move in, people are going to move out, and you just find your lane and run in your lane. Love those while God gives them to you. And then hopefully you make their lives and their walks stronger and better.
Yeah, I think everyone should find their lane with Upward. That's the right way to go.
Upward is a great lane to run in.
They have provided the best sports ministry that you could possibly imagine. You've probably heard the name, and for all I know, some of you have made this phone call to them because they are offering this $500 sports startup grant to our listeners only. So go to upward.org/churchanswers. Again, upward.org/churchanswers, and you can take advantage of that $500 sports startup grant. They do sports ministry better than anyone else. They can get you into the community. They can bring the community to you. Goodness. I mean, this is a great, great program. And it's more than a program. It's an outreach ministry. And it's a ministry where you can equip your families to be in the lives of the families of the neighborhood. So again, go to upward.org/churchanswers. Take advantage of this $500 sports startup grant. It's just available to our listeners. So we are very appreciative of Upward for providing it.
That's right. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of the conversation. I hope that you and us will all work together better to lower transfer growth and to make disciples that make disciples. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next week.
Upward Sports equips churches to run self-sustaining sports ministries in their communities. Whether you're a sports fanatic or on staff at a church, Upward Sports will give you all the tools you need to run a first-class sports ministry that allows you to reach families in your community. Upward Sports offers basketball, soccer, flag football, cheerleading, volleyball, baseball, and softball through league and camp offerings. At Upward Sports, we want to help your church make a difference and give you increased opportunities to share the gospel. Learn more today at upward.org/churchanswers.